Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Forge, where I'm continuing with the crane project. If you remember from the last video, I am recreating a crane that I saw in the Welsh Slate Museum at Llanberis, which is a nice old forged crane, and I thought I could do one of those to help me lift things on and off my lathe. The plan today is to finish the remaining parts, being the central ring and punching the holes, which I'm doing here, and also riveting the thing together and eventually getting it hung on the wall. So at the moment I am punching a hole in each end of the curved brace, and this will take the rivets which will fix it to the back stile and the boom. Now I'm punching holes here instead of riveting because punching holes is always stronger. You remove less material when you punch a hole than you do when you drill it. You can always spot from a distance a punched hole when you're looking at any ironwork, this crane included. You can see the telltale swelling around the hole. So once I've gone through with the slot punch, I'll just drive through with the drift, make the hole round and bring it to size. So there's one more hole yet to punch, and that is the one at the bottom of the back stile, which I wanted to measure off the brace so I could get it in the right place. So I'm laying it out on the floor, checking it's square and marking out the position for the hole in the back stile. And now we can get that hot and punch the hole in the same way as I did before. Now when you're marking out for a punched hole, it is a slightly different rule to when you're drilling. So when you're drilling, you obviously mark the centre of the hole. When you're punching, you mark to one side of the hole. This is because the centre of the hole will actually move as you punch it. So for example, if you've got two holes that need to be a certain distance away from each other, then you mark out the distance between the two holes, inside edge to inside edge, not the centre to centre. Because the physical amount of material between the two holes, edge to edge, is the only thing that's going to stay the same during the punching process. Everything the other side of the hole is going to shift away from you. So when you're punching a row of holes, you have to mark them out one at a time, edge to edge. So in this situation, when I was lining up with the existing hole on the brace, I wasn't marking the centre of the hole, I was marking the top edge of that hole. And then when I come to punch that mark, I place my slot punch, the edge of my slot punch, just below that mark. And then by the time it's drifted out to the same size as the hole that we're copying, it will be in the same place. So let's see if it all goes together. If I did my job right with the hole, then the rivet should just pop straight through. It's time to get this thing riveted together now. We're going to start with the main tenon, and then once that's set properly, move on to the other rivets. I'm going to stop and quickly check for squareness there before taking another heat and carrying on. That's where I want it, slightly higher 90. Oh, spot on. That's exactly what I wanted. But with the bare bones of the crane all fitted together now, it is time to move on to the ring. And the ring fits in the triangle space between the brace, the boom and the back style. I'm fairly certain the original Flamberis was a fire welded ring, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to start by upsetting for a scarf, forging the scarf much like the scarf you saw on the last video for the boom, and then starting the ends of the ring by hand and then moving to the ring rollers to form the majority of the ring. Then there'll definitely be some handwork after this needed to hit the right radius, and they'll move all over the place during welding, but this just speeds up the process, and if you can start with a nice even bend, then you're more likely to finish with a nice even bend. After some fettling with the ring by hand, I can get the scarf joint to meet properly, and it's ready for welding. So the welding was done in much the same way as it was before, although of course I don't have two individual pieces to try and line up at the same time at a very critical moment. That is the plus side. Downside also is that the ring is quite a difficult shape to heat, so getting heat on the inside of the ring is quite difficult because you can't rotate it in the fire. And I did actually catch the weld area, burnt it a little bit, so not my finest weld, but it was overall successful. Once the joint was completely welded, I worked my way around the entire ring, heating up a small section at a time, just to stretch out the material. I calculated out the ring to be slightly too small than what was necessary by the time it was welded, so that I could work my way around stretching it out to the perfect size to fit. The last thing you want is for it to be too big, because it's almost impossible to shrink, but what you can do is expand one that's too small. So once I'm happy with the size, it's time to get the calipers out and check that it's actually round. And this involves some cold work. I will heat the weld area before I do the cold work because I don't want that area to stress, and as I mentioned, I did catch it with the fire. There's a little burn. I don't want to induce any cracking by forcing it to move where it doesn't want to, so the little bit of heat in that area helps to prevent that. I'm just checking with my large outside calipers by feel and just making some cold adjustments where necessary to bring it to final roundness. I'm quite pleased with how that fit turned out. Rings were never my strong point, especially welded ones. So now it's time to mark out for drilling holes to rivet it into the rest of the crane. I was able to drill all the holes under the bench drill, apart from this one nearest to us on the back stile. Because of the nearly 6 foot of boom sticking out, there wasn't enough floor clearance. I'd have to do that with the electric drill. So once all the rivets are in place, it's time to pin them over and rivet this together. It's finally starting to look like a finished thing. And it's very nearly time for installation, although I did have to remove a little bit more building to make it fit. I fabricated up some brackets in preparation for today. This one is the one that goes on the top up there and supports the top pin of the crane. Now, they're nothing special. The original crane at Llanberis has nice cast iron shoes bolted to the proper wall, and I don't have a proper wall, but I do have a sprawling expanse of steelwork that everything is somehow hanging off, and this is just an extension of that. And this is the bottom one that bolts in somewhere on this piece of box, and the plan is to install the top one, lift the crane in, and then slide the bottom one underneath it and bolt that in, and there, then we should have lift off. If we do that.
Oh, got the ladder, mind the ladder.
Alright.
Safe for a train.
Yeah, just put your head.
Yeah.
Well, it's up and it swings, which is useful. I've got a nice range of movement and comes right up to the spindle nose. It's just a case of how much it will lift. So that's quite a good way of figuring out that. Right, start down here. Ooh. Oh wow. That's good. Bit of spring, but I'm about 80 kilos and I'm not going to be lifting anything much heavier than that on this lathe, so that's a good sign. No movement on the upright either. I was expecting to have to brace that, but that seems to be strong enough. So I think that's all in all a good success. I quite like that. Just needs a trolley now. Trolley and a hoist to make it somewhat useful,